Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of the Mile High on Broad podcast. Coming at you guys right before the draft. You guys will probably won't see this until after the draft has happened. We'll definitely recap some of that after the fact, but definitely just been a ton going on. Mike, how are things been going for you?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. Just looking forward to a big weekend of football. I know that this is probably one of the bigger weekends post Super Bowl, but pre week one. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm definitely a big sports guy all around, and we got NBA playoffs going on. You got the NHL playoffs getting ready to start, and then like all that I've been focusing on was the NFL draft. So it just shows you how much football is king when it comes down to everything else. That I'm more worried about ending game in the NBA finals, and more concerned about what's going on with the draft coming up. So pretty excited for that. So what I want to talk about with you today, Mike, was I just want to talk on some of the big, I don't know, storylines or headlines that I've seen, kind of popping up in the news lately when it comes to some of the NFL stuff. And just talk on some of these before we actually get into some of the draft mania that's going to be coming over the next few weeks. And the first one that caught me was Sauce Gardner coming out and talking about how he is going to go out and get himself an MVP after what he did last year. I instantly just put him on my list of just people that I highly dislike in the NFL. Look, I don't even think that he was the best rookie corner last year, right? He for sure isn't the best corner in the league. And in no way is he a defensive MVP, let alone an MVP, right? So like this is just such a stretch for a dude who's been in the league for 2 years, not even 2 years, coming into his second year to be talking like this. It just annoys me. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but he changed his Twitter handle to DeRoy. It says defensive rookie of the year Sauce. Like, that's his new Twitter. And it just, and I've been very outspoken about some people that like I will deny their level of ability to a certain extent based on just to me it's just a big mouth corner, and he's made that list, and I've decided that it's been like every generation it's been replaced. Like, started with Richard Sherman. He really annoyed me. He ran his mouth a lot, talked a lot. And then it was Jalen Ramsey. And I dislike Jalen Ramsey. I'll never give him the due that he might honestly even deserve, just because I think he talked a lot of shit for somebody that he wasn't. And now as he's on his kind of his way out of his career, I guess, welcome in Sauce Gardner to my list of big mouth corners that just talk a lot and aren't really as good as they think they are.
So, you're not going to throw in there the guy from Carolina that had one good year? I can't think of his name off the top. And
Josh Norman.
No, you don't want to throw Josh Norman in there?
I would, and he'd be on the, like, I feel like there's one, right? There's always one. It's like it was boom, 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 and this is just the next one. And like there are other guys who will run their mouth sometimes, but like Josh Norman ran his mouth because he was really, and then like he was not good when he left Carolina after a year. And I think he kind of like you didn't hear from Josh Norman too much when he was in Washington, because I think he realized like, oh, I shouldn't be talking anymore. And maybe these other guys just put up enough numbers that they get to just keep talking. They also don't really change teams a ton. But like, I think some of them, the reason they rub me the wrong way too is like they do have talent, right? Because there are guys out in the league that just they run their mouth, and they're corners, and they suck. All right, Eli Apple, prime example. That dude talks more shit than any of the guys on my list, but he's trash. So I think that because he's so horrible, I don't care what he says because he's just a joke, right? Like Sauce is a good corner, but dude, you're not that good.
No, I mean, I'll even say he's a great corner, honestly, but I don't know. I get it. Like, I think it comes with the position. I really do. I think it's almost like a wide receiver where you're going to get diva wide receivers. You're going to get wide receivers that talk. You're going to get wide receivers that are flashy. And you're going to get wide receivers that like to make all these big headlines. And I think some of it comes with the position, right? If you're a DB, I mean, you have to have a lot of confidence, man. Like, you're going one-on-one 40 to 50, 60% of the plays on the field with just one guy, and you need to create an island. I think you have to have some of that. I don't know. The young kids nowadays, they say you have to have that dog in you, man. You got to have that, right? And like, I think that's part of what this is. And I don't know how much of that he even believes. I don't know if he truly believes, oh, I'm going to go out here and win an MVP. I think if you want to get deep into his mind, he probably thinks he can win a Defensive Player of the Year one year, and maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. He has the talent to be able to do it, possibly. But I think for guys like that, like in order to hype themselves up and in order to make themselves truly get the most out of their ability, they almost need to talk the talk to ensure that, hey, like now we're in the off season. I've written a check that I need to cash. And so now I need to work extra hard. I can't fall behind on it. And that's what I'm going for. And so I think that you see that all the time from these corners because it's how they motivate themselves.
Yes, I feel like, with some of these players, like I think it's just an attitude thing. Like it's a personality thing. Like some people do it and some people don't. I mean, and I don't know, maybe I was spoiled, right? I mean, Champ Bailey, arguably one of the greatest corners to ever play the game, talked a grand total of never, right? He just went out there and you were never going to throw to, that half of the field. Like, I mean, that's how that went. You just didn't throw to half of the field when he was out there. Like he legitimately was the best corner that was there, but you never heard him running his mouth the way that some of these guys do. And I think maybe that's why it irks me so much. I'm like, you're good, but like let's tone it down just a smidge, bro. Like you're not that good,
Sure.
And a lot of listeners, haven't known me for long enough to realize how much I've ripped on Jalen Ramsey and how much you give him a lot more credit. And this has been a long, outstanding debate. And of all these guys, he's probably the best corner of those three that make my list, right? And I think it started with Richard Sherman. And then I think it just moved into Jalen Ramsey with some of the stuff he had. And now, like, I'm just seeing these headlines and I'm like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, and I think it would have been different if he goes out there and, like, hey, I think I can go get a Defensive Player of the Year now. But, like, dude, to talk like you're going to go win an MVP when you probably didn't even deserve the award that you got last year. I mean, like, and I get it. He was the big name. He was the high draft pick, yada, yada. He plays in a big market, blah, blah, blah. He's got the cool nickname. But, like, dude, if I stack him up against Tyreek Woolley, stat for stat line, and it's funny because I look at the stat lines and I look at like a PFF that says like that Sauce was far and away the best corner last year. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what world you're looking at because I can look at the stat box and say that he allowed a higher quarterback percentage, he allowed more touchdowns, he allowed more, catch. I mean, like, so he didn't perform better on the field when he was challenged. So I don't know how you could put him over another rookie, let alone some of the other corners in the league. It just, I don't know. It annoyed me seeing him say that because I was like, all right, dude, like let's tone it down just a smidge. Like, how about come out and be dominant for a few more years and then you can start talking about stuff like, Aaron Donald comes out and says he wants to win an MVP. I'm like, all right, man, you won like 6 straight Defensive Player of the Years and you are legitimately the best player in your position. Like that's possible, never happened because a quarterback will always win it. But at least I'm like, all right, maybe. I mean, in today's they have, but in the passing leagues that we live in today, I don't know if that'll ever happen, But I mean, it's just like, dude, like do some more stuff before you come and talk to me about how you're gonna win an MVP. No, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, like you said, I think you're also kind of spoiled because Denver has probably the best corner in the league right now, also in PS1 or I guess PS2 now, and he just. I mean, I don't know if I know what Pat Surtain sounds like, honestly. I don't know if I've heard him ever speak before. And so I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if Pat Surtain Sr., if you will, never really spoke. I don't know if that's maybe just a culture thing for the Broncos, where, like you said, Champ Bailey never spoke. But I also, to be fair, I don't think he ever spoke in Washington either. But I don't know. It's just some of them are built a little bit differently than others. I think that yeah, you've got you have two great corners in your league that we can kind of draw comparisons to right now, who both just didn't talk. And so I think it's definitely what you're used to, but I think it's a territory that comes with the position, right? And it's just you're gonna have this issue every couple of years with a quarterback or two, and it's gonna be fun to hear you listen.
Sure am. Look, and like the more people listen up, they'll understand my list. There are people that I just absolutely despise and hate. Unfortunately, I've had to move Sean Payton out of the absolutely hate to the semi-despise for now category because I swore I would always hate him, but now I don't really have a choice. I have to put some faith in the dude. But like, yeah, man, I have this list, and I saw that comment and I wrote his name down. I was like, we got to talk about this because you made my paper. There aren't a lot of names on it, but you just made that list with the corner. So little game I want to play with real quick. So Sauce or Nah, MVP Sauce Gardner, right? So I want to tell you, if you could pick today, you're the GM, and you could have Sauce Gardner or this cornerback. I want you to tell me Sauce or Nah with any of these following cornerbacks.
All right.
And these aren't nobodies. I went and I looked at the top performing corners last year, and I counter-referenced everything from stat lines to PFF to ESPN to NFL, and I pulled, how many names did I pull here? 6 names. Okay. And I want you to tell me if you would rather have Sauce Gardner or this guy on your team.
Okay.
We're going to start with a great one for you. James Bradberry.
I got to be honest. I got to go with Sauce there. I love Bradberry. He's done a lot for this team, but I'm going to be honest and consistent with my feelings on Bradberry as to where he plays with my team. And that is, I view James Bradberry as to what Juju Smith-Schuster was when AB was playing with the Steelers, right? I think that James Bradberry, as a number 2 corner behind a true number 1 corner, is an elite corner. I've seen him have a good year or two being the number 1 corner, but I mean, I've seen way more years of him being way more productive as a number 2 than a number 1. I think Sauce is a true 1, so I'm going to take Sauce over Bradberry.
All right. Pat Surtain.
Got to go with Pat Surtain. I think right now, as we stand here today, Pat Surtain probably has the crown to being the best corner in the league. I think he was probably the best corner in the league last year. They're both about the same age, so age isn't really a factor here. I know what I'm getting with Pat Surtain. I can only speculate what I think I'm going to end up getting in the future with Sauce, so I'll go with Pat Surtain.
Tyreek Woolen.
I like Tyreek Woolen. I thought he should have won Rookie of the Year last year. For those of you that may have watched our show a couple of weeks ago for the awards, I had Tyreek winning Rookie of the Year last year. I think the only issue we may run into is that generally those later round draft picks that kind of come out like blazing, they kind of burn out faster. But I thought last year he was better. He's like 6'4". He played wide receiver in college. He has great hands. He had more interceptions, less touchdowns, the whole 9. I thought he was just a superior corner last year.
Jair Alexander.
I like Jair in the sense of, like, if I was building my team around him, I have some other issues with him. But man, Jair was, I mean, he's had probably 3 or 4 really, really good years, but he's also a 3 or 4 or 5 years older now. And so I think talent-wise and age-wise, I might have to just lean Sauce. I think I'm going to, it's close.
It's an age thing. It's an age thing. You put them the same age. All right, yeah. I mean, look at it, and there's one more older guy we're going to get to next. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely coming to the twilight, shall we say, of his career versus coming into his career. So, all right. Yeah. Next twilight player, Jalen Ramsey.
I think I don't even know what to do with J-Ram anymore, man. Like, I don't know how much of last year I blame on him as opposed to the entire Rams team was bad, to coming off the Super Bowl hangover. And now he's in Miami, where I don't even know if he's going to be considered the number 1 corner or not, because they have Xavier Howard there too. And so I don't know if he's even the one right now. He's also another older guy. So yeah, for me, it's got to be Sauce.
Tre'Davious Ward.
Tre'Davious Ward's a good player. I think he's a very good player. But man, I'm going to be honest. I think Sauce is just he's younger, he's more athletic, he's better. Give me Sauce.
Well, that's good, 50-50. So, look, Sauce is a great young corner. I'm going to stop giving him a lot of credit just because he runs his mouth. So this will be the last time you hear me probably say that he's a great corner. But, I mean, we're about 50-50. Two of these guys, it's an age thing, and then Bradberry and Ward, you put more of 2. So I figured Ward would be the bigger of the discussion points compared to the other ones, figure out where you kind of landed with those. So, all right. Well, Sauce, good luck. You're probably not going to win another big yearly award. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about some quarterback contracts. All right. Obviously, a lot going on in the news with Lamar and his contract desires. And we've looked this year at just some other massive contracts getting handed out. Jalen Hurts, obviously, just getting paid. 5-year, $255 million, highest paid quarterback. I always love how they kind of write these up, right? But a lot of times it's like, where's the guaranteed money at? How many years are we looking at? You know what I mean? Like, in the grand scheme of things, like his difference between some of these other guys, like it's like pennies on the dollar, but sure, like he's number one, like we get it, right? And he'll be number one until the next quarterback signs their deal, because that's always how it's gonna go, right?
Probably Lamar, if we had to guess.
Right, when Lamar signs, he's going to be number one, and then when Burrow signs, he'll be number one. If Burrow's smart, he'll wait till Herbert signs, because then his contract will be even more inflated, and then Trevor Lawrence will be making like $72 million a year. Right? I mean, like it's just, you're always going to be the highest paid when you're the next one to sign it.
What does Justin Fields get? 80?
Yeah. Justin Fields $80 million a year for running around a lot. Trash. So this year, here's quarterbacks that have gotten deals, right? So Jalen Hurts obviously just got signed. Daniel Jones got signed. Derek Carr got a new contract. Geno Smith got a contract. Jimmy G got paid. And Lamar obviously has the franchise tag / he will sign a contract because no one else is going to take him. So
he's not an exclusive tag.
He's going to end up back with them. It's just a matter of whether or not he, whenever he decides to accept that he's not getting a fully guaranteed contract and come over. So I wanted to start by looking at this in another little game. I want to see kind of where you would stand. So I look at Danny Dimes, all right, getting paid $40 million a year. Okay. And to me, that's a lot of money for a dude that showed you what? Nothing, didn't pick up a 5th-year option, looked better, but not great under the ball for the first year, which what that tells me is you can go get anybody to play quarterback, right? The ball's going to make them good. Yep. And you're going to give this kid $40 million a year on a pretty sizable, like, contract. His guarantees are pretty good. His length is, I mean, like, it's not like this is a 1 or 2 year, like, let's bring it in, let's see what you got. Like,
yeah, they're all in with this guy for at least 3 years.
And trust me, like, I know all about having a quarterback on the books that you can't get rid of, that you don't know if you want to keep having around, right? Yep. Hopefully, Sean Payton can do what, what the ball did for Danny Dimes. We'll see. But I know what that's like. So I'm looking at this contract and I'm like, man, that's a lot of money to give Danny Dimes.
Yep.
So I looked at every quarterback right now on the books that's making $35 to $40 million. So this is either like right under or right at what Danny Dimes is making. I think to me that's kind of like one tier, right? Like the tier under that, that's where like Jimmy and Geno and some of those guys landed. They're in that like, $25 to $30 million range. Like you're good. You're probably like you brought in to be a starter, but like you're not really a long-term answer for a team. Like that to me, that's that like that kind of money, right? Anything under that is backup money.
Yep.
The 25. So anybody above that, that's kind of what I was looking at. There's one guy that kind of fell like right in between my windows, so we'll call him a bonus roll at the end of this. But
all right,
I want to see kind of where you stand with some of these guys when we compare him to Danny Dimes. So we'll start with his brethren at $40 million a year. Would you rather have Danny Dimes or Dak Prescott at $40 million a year?
I got to go with Dak Prescott. I don't think Daniel Jones is even anywhere near being a top 10 quarterback. I think Dak Prescott has an argument to be made that he's on the fringe of that area. I think he's somewhere probably in that 12-ish range, so you could at least make that argument. I don't think Daniel Jones is very good. At least with Dak Prescott, I know I can consistently make it to the playoffs. I don't know if I can win the Super Bowl, but at least he can get me to the playoffs consistently. Daniel Jones, Daniel fumbles, Danny interceptions, whatever you want to call him, not very good.
All right, the next $40 million quarterback is Matt Stafford.
I got to go with Matt Stafford simply because of the fact I know for a fact you can win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford.
Sure can.
I'm not saying he's the driving force of it. I'm not saying he's the best player on that team. I'm not saying whatever. But he can get there and he can perform and he can win it. Daniel Jones has never even won a playoff game. I got to go with Stafford, even though he's older and he's coming off of an injury.
Derek Carr, $37.5 million a year. So hair under those other two guys, but still.
Yeah, I'm going with Derek Carr here. I don't think this one's particularly close either. I think he's just a more proven, solid vet. I know he's very, very good in the locker room. I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is bad in the locker room, but I know people tend to like Derek Carr. Derek Carr also seems to have this unmitigated loyalty to a team. We saw how loyal he was to the Raiders, and we saw how they treated him in return. So I didn't think that was very fair. So I also find myself rooting for him. But overall, I think, again, he's one of those guys that's on that fringe of a top 10 quarterback, probably close to that 11, 12, 13 range. But Daniel Jones is not nowhere near there.
Kirk Cousins, $35 million a year.
Yeah, give me Kirk Cousins. I'm going to try to schedule as many games as I can away from that nighttime game. But yeah, no, I Kirk Cousins, again, at least I've seen him win a playoff game. I know that he's at least going to be serviceable in the passing game every single year. He's going to put up somewhere between 38 and 4,200 yards year in and year out. He might not give you the versatility on the ground that Daniel Jones does, but that's okay. He more than makes up for it in his arm.
So it's interesting. So that's the end of the 35 to $40 million tier, right? Obviously, we took all four guys over Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
and he's really the outlier to me because we were talking before when we look at contracts for quarterbacks, right? I got my backups, right? Then I got my like fringe starter, my bridge guys, all right? And then we get to this tier, and if you look at all these guys, with the exception of Daniel Jones, because he's kind of like his own dude who just got paid for some reason, but all these guys to me are almost the same dude.
Mm-hmm.
They're all excellent, above average game managers, right? Like these guys aren't running around and like changing the game on the ground or anything like that. But I would trust every single one of them to go in and be a game manager and not necessarily lose me a game, right? Like they're all high end quarterback game manager type guys. And like we look at Kirk Cousins, we talked about him and Dak Prescott being very similar type guys. And you look at Derek Carr, same type of dude, Matt Stafford, same. I mean, they're all the same. So that to me is that tier, right? So you're getting paid 35 to 40, you fall right into that. You're like that upper end game manager type guy, with the exception of Daniel Jones, that for somehow inconsistencies and more of a runner kind of guy, but not an elite enough level to make it to that next tier. He just somehow gets stuck in there. The last guy to kind of fill in that middle, and I kind of want to see where you put this guy. So he's at $33.5 million. All right. So he's kind of right in that bridge.
Is it Gino?
Jared Goff.
Oh, Jared Goff. Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, I think I'm going to go with Jared Goff here. I think I've seen Jared Goff in the past, whether you want to say that it was all coach's name. Why am I blanking?
McVay.
Yeah, whether you want to say it's all McVay or not, I've at least seen Jared Goff put up MVP fringe caliber numbers, right? Like I think he was like top 5, top 8 1 year for MVP voting. I've seen him take a team to a Super Bowl. I've seen him put up a top 5, top 8 all-time offense. I know that he had a couple of down years, but last year we saw a resurgence in Jared Goff again. I know I saw him kind of tweeting something out the other day where, like, you know, basically like I feel like he has his swagger back again, right? I think when McVay lost confidence in him, he lost confidence in himself. Yep. But I think that just his second half of the year performance, coupled with what I've seen him do in the past, 100% taking Jared Goff over Daniel Jones.
And I think he really is truly the bottom of that 35-40 million tier, because to me, he's the same thing. He's not going to alter a game for you. He's a little bit inconsistent compared to some of those other guys, but again, an elite upper level game manager. I'd rather have Jared Goff than some of these other Jimmy Graham, Geno Smith, those type of guys. Jimmy Graham, Jimmy G, which is also a Graham, but Garoppolo, you know, like those guys, like I would rather have Goff than them. He's a little bit more inconsistent than the other guys, but I think he's like the bottom of that tier. And again, yeah, like I'd rather have a guy that I could trust is going to go out and, you know, can handle the pocket, you know, and not a Danny Dimes kind of guy who will lose me a game more than these guys will. So looking at him, like the next tier obviously is more of that's that elite money, right? The top end guys. And that's the category that Lamar Jackson wants to find himself in. And, you know, I think for his thing is, you know, he wants to be the highest paid, right? So
he wants the Sean money.
Right. So they offered him a 5-year at 250, right? That was the rumor, like 180 million guaranteed or something like that. And I mean, that's $50 million a year. You know, and 180 million guaranteed was actually the most guaranteed money, with the exception of Watson, right, ever offered. So, I mean, like that's a massive contract. And I'm looking at $50 million a year. And obviously this is, you know, pre-Hurts getting 51, but that would have made him the highest paid, or the second highest paid, I guess, when you actually break it down. But I'm looking at Lamar and I'm going, all right, here's a dude who, outside of his MVP year, which look, the dude's electric on the ground, but like his passing wasn't even spectacular. He led the league in passing with 36 touchdowns. That's not like life altering, like, 40s and 50s, like we've seen from some of these other guys, right? So like his MVP year, like, sure, he was fire on the ground, right? But like the dude struggled in the playoffs. He no longer can stay healthy. He's regressed every single year. I mean, like, is this a dude that I'm going to pay? One, I'm never going to pay fully guaranteed. But when I'm looking at these other guys that are in that elite tier of money that this guy wants to be the highest of, I'm looking at him like, dude, I don't even know if I put you in that category, right? Now, I think he gets the money because of what he is to Baltimore and perception of him in the league. And my perception of him is obviously a lot lower than a lot of other people. But I'm looking at this list of these 6 names that are in that, 45 million plus, which is where that next tier starts. And I'm like, man, I don't know if you belong in this tier with some of these guys, and if you do, I don't even know. And here's the crazy part, because obviously when somebody signs a new contract, they automatically become the highest paid ever.
Yep.
The bottom name and the start of our tier is Patrick Mahomes at $45 million a year.
That's crazy.
So $45 million a year, Patrick Mahomes, we're starting there. We don't even discuss Patrick Mahomes because we all know that he's the greatest on turf. You're not better than him, right? But you want to be paid more than him. Cool. Got it. Let's move on. Deshaun Watson, $46 million a year.
Yeah. I think Lamar's better than him, but I don't like the Deshaun Watson contract is the issue. I think coming into that year, I was okay with the money per year that Watson was getting, right? He had shown, I was good with him getting 46 million a year. He had shown in the past that he was electric on the ground, but he was more of a pocket passer. He was showing glimpses of like,
the league in passing.
Right, this guy could be an MVP future one day, right? He had some issues off the field. He sat out for 2 years. And so since then, he hasn't been the same. I would take Lamar over him, but I'm not giving him that contract because I don't like the fully guarantees about it. It's too much money. We've already seen too many things go wrong with Deshaun Watson, and he's only 9 months into his contract.
Yeah, I'll get some pushback on this from people, but I don't know what Deshaun will be this year. I think Lamar and Watson last year, I would take Lamar. I think Watson, before his exodus from the league for a year or two, I would rather have that Deshaun Watson than the Lamar Jackson that I see now, right? Lamar's a little bit more electric on the ground, right? But better passer, more accurate, still does damage on the ground. If Watson can get back to his Browns form, if he can get back to that form, then I take him over Lamar. I agree. The issue with Watson's contract is the guarantees, right? So it's just nuts. All right, we got Kyler Murray next. This guy's making $46.1 million a year, just touching out Watson by that $100K. I don't know what to do here with Kyler Murray, man, because again, when you look at some of his abilities, you're like, all right, to me, this is where I land with some of these Lamar guys, right? Like they put him in that category where like, hey, this is an elite talent, right? Like Kyler Murray is definitely more talented, than anybody we put in our bridge quarterback window, right? And he definitely is more athletically gifted than anyone in our, upper tier pocket, category. But he would rather play video games, and I don't think he's really committed to football, right? But like a committed Kyler Murray, 46.1, sure, all day. He's just not. But I'm really torn there because I don't. I think Lamar wants to play football. I just don't know how much I trust him, and I think that Kyler Murray just doesn't want to be around. I probably have to pay Lamar where I would put Kyler.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe I could help you out because I would take Lamar here. I think I would rather have a guy who I know loves the game of football. I've never heard anything otherwise out of Lamar or his camp or the Ravens saying anything about him not liking the game of football. I think he loves the game of football. He's bigger. He's stronger. I think he's a better runner. I don't know if he's a better thrower, but that's another issue. And I think some of the injury this year was Lamar was looking back at things that happened to like RG3, where he went out and he was hurt, and he ended up getting himself even more hurt. And then from there, that kind of cost him the rest of his career. And next thing we know, RG3 is a perennial backup for the rest of his life and has lost out on hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think Lamar saw that, said, hey, this is my last year of my contract. I have $0 guaranteed coming to me from 2023 onward. I'm going to protect myself a little bit. And I think if he had this contract right. I think if he had this contract that's coming to him here shortly, I think he plays this year. I think he plays in those playoff games. I think he probably plays a game or two before the playoffs come around. I think it was literally just he was trying to protect himself a little bit. So all in all, I would rather have a guy that wants to play the game of football than a guy that wants to play Madden and Call of Duty. And yeah, that's where I'm at with him.
All right, this next guy on the list, we all know where I'm going to land on it. But wait, your take: $48.5 million a year, Russell Wilson.
No, stop it. Give me the guy that's younger and has an MVP. And yeah, no, just Russ looked horrible last year. I don't know if he's over the hill or not. He very well might be. It's possible. I think maybe best case scenario, we're looking at Sean Payton getting him back to a average to above average level quarterback. I don't think Russell Wilson is any longer a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think that at least Lamar Jackson on his best days can look like a top 5 quarterback. So yeah, give me Lamar.
My biggest issue is his best days, and we never know what those are because he misses half the games that he plays in.
Sure.
All right. Our first 50 million plus quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, 50.25 million a year.
Yeah, no, I'd rather have Lamar Jackson. He's younger, going to get more years out of him. I don't know how much Aaron even really likes the game of football anymore. I think he now likes the center of attention. He seems way more interested in being on the Pat McAfee show and just having everyone ask him, oh, Aaron, please don't leave us. Please, what are we going to do without you? I think he's a diva. He doesn't really look like he wants to play anymore. He's certainly up and over those. I think those 4 MVPs are long behind him now. I think that he's now diverged into a place where on his best days, I think he's going to look like a top 12 quarterback. But I think that by the end of the year, you're going to be like, yeah, this guy's closer to 16, 18 range.
And our number 1 guy, Jalen Hurts, $51 million a year.
Yeah, give me Jalen. I mean, Jalen has...
He can complete passes.
Yes, that too. I was going to say he's actually done almost the exact opposite arc of what we've seen from Lamar Jackson, where Lamar Jackson came into the league by storm. He took the Ravens, who were a sub-500 team, took them to the playoffs that very same year after replacing Joe Flacco. He then looked terrible in the playoffs. He then came back to win a unanimous MVP. He then looked terrible in the playoffs. And since then, he's just been steadily declining. And Jalen Hurts has come into the league, didn't look like anything special, then squeaked into the playoffs behind a dominant run game, and then last year turned himself into a top 5 MVP candidate, was probably the runner-up, I think. Led his team to a Super Bowl. They lost, but that certainly was not his fault. So I think he's proven you can win a Super Bowl with him. So yeah, 100% going on Jalen Hurts over Lamar.
Yeah, I don't think that's much of a question there. I mean, look, again, we look at all these guys and whether they're, on the downturn of their career, Wilson and Rodgers, or, in the prime, like some of these Hurts and Mahomes guys, like these are your elite level quarterbacks. They have the elite talent somewhere, right? And I do think that Lamar gets a contract somewhere in that window.
Sure. Assuming he's willing to take it.
Right. There was another rumor that he got $200 million guaranteed versus the, he wants the fully guaranteed. And there's obviously only one quarterback getting fully guaranteed money, and that's Watson at $230 million.
I think there's 2. I think Kirk Cousins makes fully guaranteed also. No?
No, I don't think his was fully guaranteed.
I feel like okay. Either way.
I don't think it was.
It's significantly less.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, and here's my thing, I guess. If Kirk's coming up and they restructure his contract and they say, hey, you got 3 years left, we're going to restructure and create some cap space and we'll get you blah, blah. I don't know if I guess technically it's fully guaranteed, but some of those contracts, because there's another guy who got a fully guaranteed 2-year deal, but it was as a restructure thing, right? So they're like, hey, we're going to cut $3 million off your contract, but we'll fully guarantee for 2 years. To me,
I think what Kirk Cousins was getting at one, so back in his Washington days, right? He was franchised. He then signed for the Vikings for like 3 years, like 84 million, fully guaranteed. And then I think he did something similar again, like last year or something like that. So I
I'd have to
think,
look. He might have
yeah,
been
again, I don't think what he's making is anywhere up near those, 45, 50 million. I think,
35, 35
yeah, his
range.
fully guarantees is in that 35 range, which is why I think they're willing to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Watson's contract. I don't like the fully guaranteed contracts. I don't like them in any sport. I definitely don't like them in football. There's just too much risk of, you falling down or you being dependent on schemes and this and that. That you want to perform, you want to get paid, like perform, like you'll always get paid. Like I guarantee you, Patrick Mahomes is always going to have money coming in, right?
Yep.
And if you're so focused on having to get a fully guaranteed contract, you're not only going to screw up your team's cap, hurt your own ability to get anything done, but like, what happens if you suck, and you're the team on the other end? I wouldn't want to be holding that bag. So I get it. I'm not one of these. I looked at Watts as the only one with this big high end, and I think that's the last fully guaranteed we see for a long time. I think there's pretty much a don't ever do that again kind of a thing. So
yeah, everyone was mad at the Browns when they gave him that contract, and I think they're even more mad at him now because they're saying like this really didn't work out. Like if we saw Deshaun Watson of a couple of years ago, I think everyone's mad, but like they're not like furious. I think now everyone's like, you morons, like you gave this guy this much money and he looks like he's a bottom 5 quarterback. What are you doing?
all right, our next little game that I want to play, it has to do with another headline I saw in the news. It was dealing with a wide receiver who I'm not going to name, but I'm going to do a little blind ranking with you. So 1 through 5. I'm not going to tell you who they are. I'll give you a name. I want you to put him there, and that's where he is. We'll see. We'll see how your ranking goes. First name I'm going to give you, Deebo Samuel.
Put him at like 3.
Figured you'd probably start right in the middle. Give yourself some Elijah Moore.
Put him at 4.
Chris Olave.
5. God damn, where are we going with these last two?
No love for Chris Olave, huh? Calvin Ridley.
We'll go with 2 for Calvin.
Stephon Diggs.
All right, so Diggs is definitely the one I would probably switch 2 and 3, but I don't think I did too bad there.
I like Olave a little bit more, and then I probably would have more last there. Chris Olave had like 1,200 yards receiving for a crap Saints team last year.
Who won Rookie of the Year last year?
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
But it was very. If you look at the two of them, I mean, it was close. I mean, Garrett Wilson was definitely a little bit better, but I mean, both those guys, obviously OSU guys, coming out. But
yeah, I think I had those two mixed up. I think I probably should have put. In my head, I was thinking of Garrett Wilson, not Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore, I probably should have put 5. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just So I mean, honestly, for a blind ranking, he put him. I mean, almost exactly what we probably would have done if we see all the names ahead of time. Obviously the headline is Calvin Ridley getting his suspension, overturned. He'll be joining Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, and I just kind of look like, where do we put this guy? I might put him at 2. You want to put him at 3 over Deebo? I mean, I think it's just a preference or a scheme, almost how you want to run it. I think Deebo can do a little bit more with the ball in his hands. But I think Calvin Ridley does have, I mean, we saw flashes in Atlanta before the suspension, and that team wasn't very good, where this guy looked like he could be, a true elite, top 12 type wide receiver. We'll see what he looks like a year removed, but I mean, you get Trevor Lawrence, a guy that's clearly going in, I think, is the best wide receiver on that team. So
yeah, no, he's clearly the best wide receiver on that team in terms of talent. But what concerns me is it wasn't just a year removed. I mean, he was a year and a half removed, because if you remember, he sat out like half the year or more because he was trying to find himself or whatever that was. I don't
gambling.
Yeah, I don't want to pretend like I want to know what he was doing, what issues he was going through, but yes, he was then caught afterwards gambling, and so that was where the year-long suspension came from. So, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen him play, and so I would be concerned that we might have a Deshaun Watson issue running ahead of us right now, because it's been so long since we've last seen him.
It should be interesting to see kind of what he looks like coming back. I think, look, he definitely had the elite talent there. I'm excited to see him paired with a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence and putting guys like that together. But yeah, I mean, you raised some good points. I mean, he's missed a lot of time, and who knows if he has another mental issue and needs to check himself out again. I mean, that is not ideal for a team to have your top wide receiver just not there anymore, right?
Yeah, and especially for a team that's so young and up and coming as these guys, like they're all trying to learn and grow together. Doug Peterson's only been there 1 year, and he's a young head coach. Trevor Lawrence is young. Christian Kirk is pretty young. Like the running back, I can't think of his Etienne. He's young, right? Like they have a young core. And while Ridley's a little bit older than all of them, he's probably 3 years older than all of them. He's still relatively young, and I would think I would want them building something together for the next 3, 4, 5 years together. And yeah, if he's checking out, it's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll see where he's there. Again, you want to put him at 3. It's crazy. Like I said, Olave looked really good last year. So
yeah,
I don't think we have to argue. I mean, if you like, hey, Stephon Diggs is a 1, and put Elijah Moore down there, and we want to mix and match the other 3, as long as Diggs decides he doesn't want to have one of his diva moments and he wants to play. I mean, he's definitely the most talented of those guys on the field. So
yeah.
All right. I mean, those were my 3 big headlines I kind of wanted to kind of chat through and run through today. A couple little games in there. So remember, I highly dislike Sauce Gardner now. Welcome to the list. Thanks everybody for coming out and joining us today. We'll see you guys post draft. We'll have some talks. We'll kind of see how we think some of these teams did, and we'll go ahead and give you some of our post draft power ranking / division winners. Now that we're looking at the teams post free agency and post draft. We'll see you guys then.